Hello, and welcome to My Existential Crisis, the podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self. My name is Madison Epley.
And my name is Dylan Berger.
Yes, Dylan, how are you doing today?
I am so happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you back too.
Life is good recently.
Yeah, what's new?
Yeah, I made a spontaneous purchase of a Nintendo Switch.
Okay, how do you like it?
I haven't been a gamer since I was like maybe 16 or 17.
Okay.
So playing Mario Kart again is, I remember what joy feels like.
Yeah?
I remember that childish sense of glee that I had lost.
I love that. That is amazing to hear.
Yeah,
Truly.
I feel human.
So
I just want to take a moment to thank Nintendo.
Okay.
And everyone who works there.
Yeah. Praise be.
Praise be. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So what games do you like to play on Twitch? Not Twitch. What the fuck is it called? Switch.
I could be a Twitch streamer doing Mario Kart because I am that good.
I believe it, Dylan.
I so far I am only playing that game.
Okay.
But today we bought not only Donkey Kong, the new Donkey Kong game.
Oh my gosh.
And I can even do a Donkey Kong sound if you'd like.
Yeah.
That was a monkey noise.
Wait, how does that one more time? Yeah.
I can't even look you in the eyes when you do that.
I'm too embarrassed for you to look.
That was so distressing.
That was amazing.
So not only Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, but also Super Smash Bros.
Okay.
And a few other smaller indie titles.
I love that.
Yeah. Do you play in games at all?
So, actually, I got myself a Switch.
Really?
2 Christmases ago, I think.
Okay.
I played it very little. I used to be a big gamer when I was little. I loved Mario, like Super Mario. That was my shit. Like I was
Super Mario.
So good.
Can you do Mario noise? Wahoo!
Wahoo! Probably not. No, that's not good. It's not.
Can we hear it one more time? Since I did the monkey noise.
Okay. Wahoo!
That's solid.
Is it? I don't know about that.
I would say that's right about on the mark.
I would not. But I appreciate the positivity that you're bringing.
Oh, of course, always.
Yeah, I love Mario games. Those are really the only games I really liked to play. But I've always, I wanted to get into indie games. There's so many things that I like to do. Mm-hmm. I have a very hard time deciding.
Absolutely. I know the feeling because I have other interests and passions as well.
Yeah.
I feel like I can game for 4 hours straight and feel like no time has passed by, that I could have been doing something much more productive.
Yeah, like what?
Drawing. Or writing.
Oh, yeah. If you don't know, Dylan is a fantastic artist, and I'm sure he's a magnificent writer. I just haven't read any of his stuff.
I appreciate it.
It's true.
Yeah, I like to draw. I like to write poetry, and just recently I haven't really been able to write poetry because I have to. I don't know if you like poetry at all.
Yeah, I like poetry.
But I just feel like I can't start a poem until like a line occurs to me in my head, and then I just have to go off of that.
Yeah.
And recently it's just been empty.
I get that.
It's just like echoing around in my head. There's nothing there.
There's rattling around.
Yeah, I misplaced.
You just hear the in your brain over and over again.
When I'm trying to go to sleep, that's all I hear. I sound like I'm hyperventilating.
What do you know? What? There's Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong.
Diddy Kong, the tiny brother of Donkey Kong.
It's like a higher pitched one.
Oh man,
it's great. It's fine.
I'm crying.
Please don't. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then there's Funky Kong as well.
Is there?
Yeah, Funky Kong wears like a red bandana and sunglasses and like a white tee.
Oh, I remember him. I didn't know he was called Funky Kong.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
He's probably more like a
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know for sure he was.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
From memory.
Of course.
Yeah. Back when I used to play Donkey Kong Country.
Me too.
Do you remember you played that as well? Yeah.
I love that game.
What a joy.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
I used to have we called them Donkey Kong bongos. It was.
Oh yeah,
did you
the
have
bongo
those?
game. I did. That was like Rock Band before Rock Band.
It was. I fucking loved that game so much, and my sister and I would play all day, just have like tournaments with each other. And of course, I don't remember ever really like living in a house that's not connected to somebody else. So like there was an old man who lived next to us, and you could just hear him like pounding on the wall to get us to stop.
No, he was helping.
Yeah.
He was adding a little beat to
little
it.
Tambourine clap.
Yeah. Was it a difficult game when you had to really like?
I mean, listen, Dylan, like I'm a pro at that game, so I don't think it's difficult.
I believe
because
you.
I memorized like all of the songs.
You memorized.
I did.
Can I hear a rendition of one of the songs?
I wanna be the very best. No one ever was. Yes, like.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah, that was like rock or not Rock Band, but a Guitar Hero for Monkey.
Yeah, it was. And listen, I tried Guitar Hero, and that was not my forte. I was much better at just like banging on things.
Yeah, I was also not all that good at Guitar Hero. I played bass, which is like easy guitar. I mean, I wasn't bad at it.
Do you play bass actually?
I took a few lessons.
Really?
In bass.
I didn't know that.
With a man named Stefan.
Okay.
And
Stefan sounds like he would play bass.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did.
Did he have like a beret? I feel like
he did.
Really?
Yes.
I feel like he would have a beret.
Yes, he did
A
wear
beret and like dark like artist sunglasses. Not sunglasses, but like circular glasses.
He had a soulful look about him.
Yeah.
You have to have a little soul to be able to play bass.
And to be named Stefan.
Yes. I remember very distinctly that on the instructional booklet that he gave me, there was a picture of him.
Oh, really?
Sitting on a stool with his bass and a beret.
Oh.
I remember that very clearly, and I don't know why, because I can tell you nothing about how to play the bass.
I love that so much. I mean, he left an impression, and you'll never forget those moments in your bass learning experience.
Yeah, there's just a Stefan-shaped imprint on my heart.
Yeah.
That I haven't really been able to.
It'll never go away.
I've tried learning other instruments, but I always come back to Stefan.
Yeah.
I hope he's doing well.
I'm sure. You know what? Stefan is living his life. He's living his best life, and like you shouldn't worry about him. He's Stefan.
What if he isn't living his best life? What if he always wanted to learn like the electric guitar, but his parents talked him into playing the bass?
And that's really sad.
It is.
That's really sad.
And he just got so good at bass, he was like, I can't change now.
It's too late.
Yeah, you're only allowed to play one instrument.
His parents pressured him into the bass. They're like, it's easier. You do less stuff.
Yeah. He's like, my father was a bassist,
yes.
and his father was a bassist.
Before him.
Yes. And I was a bassist, and you will be too.
Yes.
And so will your son.
Yes.
But anyway, thank you for having me on the podcast again.
Of course. I'm so
it's
excited that you're
joy.
here. You know what? It is. I have a great time. This is amazing.
Likewise.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready to get into this?
Yes.
Okay. So, I need a drink. I need like more than a drink.
I need a drink.
I drink. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I brought my own gin and tonic in a large bottle, but you can't really tell.
A bottle.
Yeah,
a bottle
big bottle
of gin and tonic.
Yeah, I just shoved a bunch of limes in there.
I love that. That's amazing. I'm very proud of you. Yeah. Okay, so this is a story I wanted to cover since the beginning of the podcast, but so this is always the issue that I have because there's so many that I want to cover, but there's a lot of them that are still developing or like we're so close to like getting answers, and this was one of them. So this came out in like 2020.
Okay.
And July 31st, the woman was sentenced. So
so this case is
very
occurring.
Recent.
I see.
Yes. And then the other perpetrator has not been tried yet. So there is still some time to go, but because it was so big in the news, at least for the news that I watch of like serial killers and whatnot.
Right.
I figured it would be important to cover. So buckle up. Exactly. And this is a lot, Dylan.
Okay.
So if you have questions, please ask them because I'm going to do my very best to explain this because it's a lot.
Okay.
It's convoluted.
Okay, I might ask you to pause so I can catch my breath and wipe the sweat off my forehead.
Please. Honestly, you will need it. Okay, because I'm going to need it too. So before I start, I got most of my sources from the documentary on Netflix called The Sins of My Mother.
Okay.
It is a 3-episode documentary, short, limited series, and I binged it all the first time. I binged it all yesterday to like do my notes for this.
You watched it twice?
Yeah, of course I did.
Wow.
Of course.
That's commitment.
Yeah, it's good. It's a crazy story. Even though I got most of my notes from that, like I can't cover everything because there's no time.
Okay. Well, my story is a little shorter, so if you want to take more time.
Okay, that's good to know. I will probably need it. Okay, so we're just going to set the scene, and we're going to start with Lori Vallow. She is the woman who was sentenced.
Okay.
Just for some background, she was born Lori Cox to a devout Mormon family in California in 1973. She was the third of 4 children, and she was described as being incredibly devout, being incredibly sensitive to religion or in tune spirituality from a very young age. At the age of 19, she married her high school sweetheart, but that did not last. Mm-hmm. By 22, she was remarried again to her second husband, and Lori gave birth to her first child, Colby, in 1996. 2 years later, by 1998, the couple were divorced.
Again?
Yes.
Oh, wait. So they were married and then they divorced. That only happened once.
Yes. So she had a first husband, no kids. She had a second husband. They divorced.
One kid. Sorry, just the Kobe thing makes me think of my uncle who has 5 kids, all with C names.
That is intense.
It is. It's a commitment.
How do you not mix that up? My dad mixes up my name and my sister's name. There's only 2 of us, and they don't start with the same letter. I don't get that.
That's interesting because my brother and I both start with D, and my dad also starts with D.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, so
was that on purpose?
Maybe it's just easier to remember your kids' names when
they all start with the same letter.
Yeah,
maybe.
So yeah, tell me about Corey.
Okay, Colby.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Okay, so they got divorced, but in 2001. Lori married for a 3rd time to a man named Joseph Anthony Ryan Jr., and he legally adopted Colby as his own. Okay. And this story does not get happy anytime soon.
I gotta buckle in twice.
Yes. So, just hearing in the documentary, Colby is speaking and hearing him recollect, he explains how all he wanted was a family and he just wanted stability and even though his mom and his new stepdad's relationship moved really fast, he was really excited to have that and had to have that family. So in 2002, oh, yeah. Okay. It goes wrong very quickly. In 2002, the couple had a daughter, and her name was Tylee. And she was the light, the joy of their lives. Colby was head over heels in love with her. He loved being a big brother. He was so excited to be building a family and to be able to have her look up to him.
Yeah.
Lori, the mother, was also super excited. She was thrilled to have a daughter. She was very much very feminine. She was very much a girly girl. So having a daughter was super important to her.
Right.
And she was really proud of the family that she was making. Her former sister-in-law described her as needing to over-spiritualize everything. And this is her, in 2002.
Lori needed to over-spiritualize.
Yes. So, it wasn't enough to say, hey, I'm going to be on the Wheel of Fortune. It was God told me I was going to be on the Wheel of Fortune.
It's nice to have that reassurance at least.
You know what? It really is.
Because if God can just make my decisions for me, that would just be a lot easier.
I do want to. I don't actually talk about religion this much.
We did talk about it during the last episode. We talked about your Christian opinion.
I feel bad. You know what? I think it's very top of mind. I think because I'm realizing a lot of the religious trauma that I grew up with. So now seeing other people's stories, I'm kind of wow. That's pretty fucked.
Yeah, how close were you to this?
Not that close.
Okay.
Not that close, but
for future reference.
Hell is a scary thing to have looming over your head constantly as a child. Okay.
I don't mean to interrupt, please.
It's okay. So, like I said, Lori was very charming, outgoing, charismatic, and she easily captured the attention of anybody who met her. In addition to being on the Wheel of Fortune, she was also in a Texas beauty pageant very shortly after giving birth to Tylee. And there is a very chilling interview of her responding to questions that you do as in a beauty pageant. Mm-hmm. And she proudly boasts of being a dedicated, hardworking mother and describes herself as a quote unquote ticking time bomb.
In what context? You just said that.
It was meant to be like a lighthearted quip. I'm I work so hard. Like, honestly, like, I could just, like, burst at any moment. Except she said the words ticking time bomb, and everybody chuckled, and, like, she chuckles. And, like, now looking back on it, it's really fucked.
Oh.
Yeah, not good.
I can see how that can be a fun little quip.
Yeah, in the moment. And then...
Like, oh, I'm crazy.
Yeah, I'm crazy. And now...
I could go off at any moment.
Yeah, and now here we are.
Yeah.
It's great. So, after some time... Colby began experiencing abuse from his adopted father, Joe. He described, it started off like everything that Colby would do was irritating and annoying to Joe, but it soon escalated. So it would start with like, you know, Joe being irritated at like, maybe he thought Colby was chewing too loud, so he would smack him in the mouth. Then it turned into like punching him in the head, you know, escalations. And then it escalated even further into sexual abuse.
Jesus.
Yeah, not good. Lori's sister-in-law urged her to leave Joe, and Lori admitted that she was also being abused by Joe. So Colby finally told his mom about the sexual abuse because she knew about the physical abuse. She didn't know about the other stuff.
Yeah.
And he said that he knew that immediately as soon as he told her that, something shifted in her. Like that was her breaking point. And Lori has a podcast, or had a podcast rather, at one point. I know, right? Inception.
Wow.
Podception.
What was the name of it?
Feel the fire?
I feel like in retrospect,
yeah,
there were a lot of signs that something was going to potentially go wrong. I don't know what it is going to be yet, but I feel like it's
good.
Going to be pretty fucked up.
Yeah. So she does admit on her podcast that her and her children's abuse was a huge turning point for her life. She said that she went to her church's bishop and she said she was either going to, quote, turn her life to the temple or kill her husband. That was it. So
A or B. You know?
There's no in between.
Nope.
And for her, por que no los dos, you know?
I understood.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly. So in 2005, she did get a divorce from Joe. It was finalized.
Did he go to jail for?
So as far as I know, he didn't go to jail, but I wasn't going to include this, but I will anyway. Fun fact, a couple years later, Lori's brother, Alex, tased him in the testicles, and Alex ended up getting on probation for doing that because that was assault, you know.
Okay.
But I don't think Joe had any repercussions. I don't think I included this either, but also years later, Joe died, I think, from a heart attack in his apartment, and he was alone, and nobody found him for weeks.
Oh.
And Lori was his, like, next contact. So
really, even then?
Yeah. So he didn't have anybody. He died alone, and nobody cared enough about him to notice that he was gone.
Well, there's a little glimmer of positivity in this story.
There, you know what that is? I should have included that from the beginning. I'm glad that I did because that is, I feel very satisfied being able to say that.
So, what's going to happen with Lori now? So
I will tell you, Dylan.
I'm curious.
Okay. So after this divorce,
yes,
Lori met another man named Charles Vallow through a client at her salon that she ran because, hairdresser. The two married in 2006, very quickly. She was divorced 2005, married 2006, very fast again. And Charles actually ended up converting to the LDS church, which is the Mormon church. Do you know?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So Lori was Mormon?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, she was very devout. Her whole family was. So he quit drinking for Lori. He converted from Catholicism to Mormonism. You know, he showed a lot of commitment very early on in taking care of Lori and her children. He was very financially stable. He had children of his own, 2 sons. And Colby said that whenever the families merged, things finally felt stable. It's like the false sense of security he had before, like now he has a family. Now, like things just kind of clicked with them. So things are going great. In 2013 now, we're jumping ahead a little bit, Charles and Lori adopted a son named Joshua Jackson, but he also goes as JJ. So JJ was actually Charles' grandnephew. So Charles's nephew's son.
Okay. I gotta write this down.
Yes, it's a lot. So like Charles was related to him in some way.
Okay.
That's essentially the point. And the nephew couldn't take care of his son because he was very young. And Charles's parents were going to take care of him, but they were also old, so they felt more comfortable if somebody who was a little younger would take care of JJ. So Charles offered to adopt him, which was amazing. So JJ also had autism, and he was, I'm not sure like the severity of it. I think they like described him as high performing, but there were still challenges, of course, with him like learning and obviously understanding things, and the things that come along with having a child with autism. So despite this, they knew it would be a challenge, but as Colby described, quote, JJ was the one who made everybody else feel like they had needed to be themselves. And he talks so fondly about the bond that he and JJ had. He was super skeptical about, them adopting another kid because they're basically all grown now. And like you're adopting someone so young. But like he said once, JJ was like the missing piece to their family. Like he just tied everything together. Along with JJ and Colby's close relationship, JJ looked up to Tylee so much. There's even a home video of Tylee saying he's my child, which just like shows how close their bond really was. And it's just so sweet to look at. So at this point, after JJ was adopted, 2013, Colby started to notice that the LDS church was becoming a widely discussed topic in their house, and to a point where he claimed it was more like idolic. He said slowly paintings and pictures throughout the home would be replaced with images of the temples and LDS scripture and like LDS imagery.
Like bless this mess kind of thing?
But like more of that.
More of that.
More of that.
Bless this mess with an exclamation point.
Yes, amen. So Lori also started to kind of escalate in her beliefs as well.
Yeah.
She would claim that she could hear voices from spirits and that she was kissed on the cheeks by spirit sisters, she called them. I don't know. I'm assuming those are like angels.
Okay.
And this was just some of the ways that she would explain that she was chosen by God. So in 2014...
I just have one question.
Yeah, go for it.
She went on Wheel of Fortune.
She did.
Did she win?
That's a great question. I don't know. Actually, that was not shown in there.
Because if God told her to go on Wheel of Fortune and she went on and won, I'd be like, maybe
she's onto something.
Maybe she's onto
she's
something.
She's got something going on here.
Maybe she's onto something.
Well, I mean, the next thing that happens is in 2014, she said that God told her to take her and her family on an adventure and move to Kauai, Hawaii. Exactly, right?
Why not?
So they actually stayed there for 3 years. Really? They did. And Colby described living in Hawaii as paradise, and he said this was kind of like the ultimate payoff for everything that kind of led up to that point. Like it was just beautiful. He had a wonderful time with his friends and his family, his siblings. It was just like perfect. So while they're in Hawaii, Lori found another LDS church community to be a part of. And from afar, as it always seems, her and Charles's marriage looked perfect. It looked idyllic. But as we know from true crime, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. Yeah. So Lori would often confide in her friend that she didn't think that Charles was her quote unquote spiritual equal. And there was a great source of contention in their marriage because of this. So Lori felt that Charles didn't understand the bigger concepts that she would talk about, like the voices and the spirit sisters, etc. But we don't really think that Charles knew how much this frustrated Lori. We think it's just like he didn't realize how intense she was about this at this point, which we'll see later. Yeah. If you know what I mean, I obviously don't know Charles, but he seemed like a good guy.
Okay, can't wait for something terrible to happen.
Yeah. It'll happen quick.
Oh, great.
So, she also said that she wanted a spiritual dynamo in a partner, and that she thought that Charles was just kind of holding her back.
Spiritual dynamo.
A spiritual dynamo.
Album title or like.
You know what? That sounds like an 80s rock band.
Yeah.
Like I picture like a tiger.
Ooh.
Like.
What color tiger?
Like a regular colored tiger.
Oh, I'm imagining like a white tiger.
Oh, you know what?
With like a purple background.
That is perfect. Well, I'm stupid for thinking a regular tiger when we can just go white.
I'm ready to start this band.
Yes.
I'll play the bass.
Naturally.
Poorly.
I'll play the bongos. That's all we need, Dylan.
Bass and bongos. I don't even know what genre that is. I think it's illegal. That's what genre it is.
It is. Could it be ska?
Ska?
Could it be ska? I don't know. What's
yeah.
ska?
What's the ska dancing?
Ska's like the ding, 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 ding. I don't know. And I imagine there's like a bass and some bongos. I don't know.
Yeah. Doesn't ska have a lot of trumpet?
I don't know.
Or am I thinking of something else? I do play the trumpet. I used to play the trumpet. Yeah.
I think I knew that.
Yeah, I played like 10 years of trumpet.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, you're telling me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I have the same thought.
Did you like it?
No. I really did not like it.
Sorry. Rip.
Sorry to all of my music teachers who put in all that time and effort for nothing.
Yikes. Yikey crikey.
Please.
Okay, cool. Again, around this point, she's becoming much more extreme in her beliefs.
Yeah.
It's moved beyond the pictures and the sayings and the scriptures. It's become far deeper. So as an example, Lori confided in one of her friends that she had a personal encounter with the angel Moroni and that they were in regular frequent communication. Moroni? I don't know. It does
I'm the angel Moroni.
Moroni.
I'll make you good Italian sub.
It does sound like that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Oh my God.
So they were in frequent communication, and she claimed that she was frequently receiving angelic ministry and that she didn't sleep much anymore because angels would wake her up to give her instruction on how to further the Father's work. She said that the Lord was gathering his people, and she would say things like, God loves you, but he loves me more.
I love that.
Which, like, honestly, that's a great attitude to have.
Embrace your power.
Yeah, you know?
Live your truth.
When you got it, flaunt it, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly. So after 3 years, the family moved from Hawaii to Arizona in 2016, and this is where Colby met his future wife, Kelsey. So at this point, Colby started to notice that his mother was showing some contention towards Kelsey. They both kind of noticed it. He describes it was almost as if she was upset at there being another woman in his life. And she was furious that he went to a Christian church with Kelsey instead of a Mormon temple. And even at their wedding, things were so bad between them. You know, they're getting family pictures taken at the wedding. And Colby's like, hey, like, where's Tylee, my little sister?
Yeah.
And she says, she's on a ski trip.
Was she on a ski trip?
She was on a ski trip, but like her brother's wedding.
Oh, during her brother's wedding?
Yes.
You know,
she wasn't there.
It's hard to schedule those things.
Yeah, you know.
You already pay for the lift ticket, and it's like $200.
It's a lot, right?
Yeah, it's non-refundable.
Yeah, it's yeah. So they were shocked that obviously that Tylee wasn't there. And to this day, Colby says how heartbroken he was to not get a picture of him and Tylee at the wedding. But from then on, there were constant problems between Colby and Lori, and everyone in their family noticed a shift in her. She began talking more about the end times. She started stocking up on survival preparedness supplies, such as canned food and camping equipment. Her former sister-in-law, the same one who told her to leave that abusive piece of shit, Joe, she said that Lori was genuinely afraid of what was to come. And Lori even told her at one point, quote, "It's going to be so scary. Sometimes I think it would be better off to go off a cliff in a car with my kids than go through the end times."
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Just imagine hearing that from like your mom.
Your mom, right?
And you're like, well,
cool.
I guess I'm going to drive.
Yeah. Like I'll take this one. I have my license now. So she would just continually preach end of times and extreme beliefs on a podcast called Feel the Fire.
Is that still live? Can you still download that?
You know what? You might be able to. I don't know. I know that there are some episodes that were taken down, but I think there also are others that are probably still up there.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find it on the internet.
I'm sure
somewhere.
you can.
So it's called Feel the Fire?
Feel the fire.
Feel the fire.
Like you're feeling it burning on your skin.
Oh.
So Lori and her brother Alex, the one who tased Joe,
yeah,
they were very close, and they became obsessed with these extreme religious podcasts, and they soon found their way into a group of friends in that circle. They would go to conventions and events and get-togethers to talk about these things and like plan things out. And Colby recalled that both he and Tylee would have conversations about how weird it felt, but overall they were just kind of excited that Lori was finding friends and kind of getting out there and like meeting people, you know. It seemed innocent enough at first.
Okay.
So now this is where Chad Daybell enters the picture. Again, a lot of names. I'm going to explain everything. So, like I had said, Lori is attending these conferences with her brother Alex.
Okay.
And in the fall of 2018, she met Chad Daybell at a Preparing a People conference. Chad was an author and motivational speaker, if you want to call it motivational.
Yeah, with a name like Chad.
Exactly, right?
You're destined for that kind of profession.
Right? So he would speak at these spiritual events. He would talk about preparing themselves for the end times and discuss his near-death experiences. And the two met whenever he was giving a book signing at this conference. And immediately they were very interested in each other. Chad was very taken with her. Lori was very curious about him and his beliefs. Mm-hmm. And it was at their first meeting that Chad claimed to Lori that they had actually been married in 7 previous lifetimes. And yeah, I know. First time at this book signing, she's reaching the table and he's like, hey, we've been married 7 times before.
How many times were we divorced? That's what I would want to know.
That's a great question. Honestly, I would never have thought to ask that question. That is probably the better question out of all this. So after that, Lori was smitten, and they started communicating privately afterwards. And meanwhile, just keep in mind, Lori is still married to Charles. Okay. They still have a family together. So a little background on Chad. He was a missionary in the LDS church.
Okay.
He set a multitude of baptismal records through his mission work because, their whole goal is to, knock on doors and get people baptized.
Yeah.
Okay.
In that order.
Yes. So he set a lot of those records, and he was described as being so charismatic and so easy to talk to. And he claims his first near-death experience was whenever he was knocked unconscious while cliff jumping. He said, at this point, after being knocked unconscious, he was able to see visions of the future from beyond the veil, and he became a type of prophet.
Can you imagine coming back with him from that trip?
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, that was crazy, that cliff jumping accident you just had. Really sorry that happened. And he's like, no.
Don't be.
I can see the future.
That was it.
That is so terrifying.
Yes. So Chad met his future wife, Tammy, shortly after his mission work. He was the first woman that he dated. He had 5 kids and started his own publishing company to publish his books. So Chad had a vision of the apocalypse. He said that most people would die, but there would be 144,000 people.
Oh, right.
Who would be the chosen ones to be saved, and they would ride out the storm and carry on the work of God into eternity.
I think it says in Revelation, right? 144,000 people survive while the rest of the people get the mark of the demon.
I know that. I didn't know it was 100.
I don't know why they chose that number.
I don't know either. I thought it was random. For me and all my years of schooling, we didn't really cover Revelation very much.
Which is the coolest book.
Honestly,
out of all of them.
It is. We kind of brushed past that and went straight to hey, Paul says you can't be gay. And that was kind of where we hung out.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, exactly. So Chad claims that Rexburg, Idaho, was going to be the headquarters of the new church, the New Jerusalem, he called it. And Chad thought that instead of Jesus coming back to lead his people in the end days, that it would be himself who was going to do it. He saw his books and writings as equal to the Book of Mormon, almost trying to create a new sect of the religion off of Mormonism, a more extreme version. So Lori naturally started to read his books, and she also believed that they were more than fiction.
Yeah, I mean, he was her husband 7 times.
Yeah, exactly. How can you not trust that, So she actually had him appear on her podcast, Fill the Fire. He talked about his experience and the visions Jesus gave him. And after their initial meeting, Lori's husband, Charles, again, still married, he went on a business trip. And this gave her the opportunity to hold a small overnight gathering in her home. Oh. And Chad captivated Lori and her group of friends by sharing his unique religious beliefs. He claimed to have lived 31 different lives on different planets and categorized people as either light or dark based on their affiliation with Jesus Christ or Satan. Chad referred to Lori as an eternal being of 21 separate lives, 5 of which coincided with his own experiences on Earth. And this belief system fascinated Lori, and it led her to develop a strong attachment to Chad and his teachings. Lori started to tell her friends at this point that Charles was already dead and that there was a demon living inside of him.
Oh.
So, like, this is kind of where it escalates. So
that's not the direction I was expecting that to go.
No. So she's like, so Charles, shell of a body, Charles as we know it is no longer there. Charles that we think that we see is actually a demon. And the only way for Charles's soul to be released is for him to die.
Mm-hmm.
Lori actually told her oldest son, Colby, that she found out that Charles was cheating on her and she was going to leave him. That wasn't true, just as a side. Okay, yeah. Charles was not cheating on her.
Not the Charles I know.
No, exactly. Not my Charles. He would never.
Hashtag not my Charles.
Not my Charles. So at this point, the family kind of cuts Charles off because they think like, oh my gosh, he's been unfaithful for years. Like my mother has every right to leave him. He's a scumbag. So Charles begins calling and emailing everybody saying that Lori wasn't the same. She thinks she's some kind of superior being. She isn't the woman he married. And to everyone on the outside, it looks like Charles is the guilty one and he's just kind of trying to cover his ass and to flip things around on Lori. So Lori's like, hey, don't talk to him. He's lost his mind. And they agree and they don't. They ignore him. So after a business trip where Charles was away during this contentious time, Lori and her brother Alex, they take Charles's truck from the airport garage. They remove it, hide it. They remove all of his belongings from their house, so he comes back with nothing, not even his underwear. And that evening, Charles called the police to report his children are missing, report the money from their bank account missing, explain again that Lori tried to threaten him. She's not acting right. You know, my stuff is gone. And the police were, you know, they took Lori in for questioning, but they were so captivated by her. And
really?
Yes, because she's so charismatic. If you listen to her talk, like I don't blame this even as bad police work, because from the outside, this is exactly how it looks. Like, it looks like Charles is the crazy one. It looks like he's this crazy, angry man coming home from a business trip, cheating on his wife, and he's mad that his kids are gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, Lori is like, you know, she's joking with the police officers in the room, like, hey, I'm not crazy, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, these reports just weren't taken seriously. It was just seen as a domestic dispute. And she's just like winning over the policemen immediately. But this same night, Charles actually filled out paperwork to have her psychologically evaluated, which he can do as her husband if he thinks that she herself is in danger or if his kids are in danger. Okay. So the police officers, they actually tell Lori, like, hey, you don't seem like a danger to yourself or your kids. We're not going to force you to go into this evaluation, but if you want free psychological help, here you go. So Lori jokes about this and she's like, yeah, maybe I could use a good night's sleep, you know? So she did go to her psych evaluation, but she wasn't committed. So everyone thought like everything was just fine. Again, Charles is clearly overreacting. In reality, Lori was the one who was cheating on Charles.
With Chad. I feel so bad for Charles.
Yeah, it doesn't get better for Charles.
Oh, no.
I'll tell you that right now. So Charles files for divorce, citing threats to his life, as well as the theft of the money from their bank accounts and his truck. He sought a protective order against Lori at the advice of his attorney. I will say that he was also concerned for JJ and Tylee as well, but JJ was the only one he actually had like legal rights for.
Okay.
So he couldn't do anything about Tylee. Okay, at this point, Charles and Lori's other brother, Adam, not Alex, Adam, they are tight. And they are trying to plan an intervention to get Lori some help. Because Adam is the only one who Charles has been able to get in touch with. He's the only one who's been listening to Charles and like seeing that this is not right. And the same day that Adam flies into Arizona, July 11th, 2009, Charles was shot and killed by Lori's other brother, Alex Cox, who claims self-defense. Alex, again, the brother who attended the same meetings, tased the awful stepdad. Alex alleged that he confronted Charles about abusing his sister and pulled out a gun after claiming to be hit with a bat by Charles. So here's how this happened. Charles went to pick up JJ to take him to school at Lori's new house, where her brother Alex happened to have just spent the night. Never stayed there before, ever, but just happened to this one day. An argument broke out. Charles was shot. Lori left with Tylee to take JJ to school. They come back as the police are interviewing Alex. Lori didn't even ask if her husband was okay. Lori was very cooperative. It was almost as if she expected this to happen. Mm-hmm. Like she kind of like, just no reaction. Like just very, I don't know, like blasé, I guess, about the whole situation.
Yeah.
Zero shock. So Tylee says, originally she was the one with the bat and she witnessed her uncle and her stepdad arguing. Mm-hmm. She said that she put the bat in between them to stop them from fighting. Charles took the bat from her, hit Alex with it. At this point, Tylee says that she leaves the house with her mom and JJ, and then they hear 2 gunshots. That is the order of events that what happened.
All right, because in self-defense, you need to shoot somebody twice.
Oh, we'll get there, Dylan. You know, at this point, I will say, I think police did not do their jobs correctly. They did not pursue the matter further. They were satisfied with self-defense. They interviewed everybody. They were satisfied with Lori's answers, satisfied with shooting somebody twice.
It's easier.
Exactly. So later it was found out that Alex called the police 43 minutes after Lori had left to take JJ to school.
Okay.
So that's 43 minutes plus of Charles being shot before any emergency help was called. Alex never tried to perform CPR, even after the 911 operator was helping him and walking him through that.
Yeah.
And the autopsy revealed that Charles was shot a second time when he was on the ground already. Yes. So Lori decides, hey, I have to tell my family the news. So she tells Colby, but she says that Charles had a heart attack. And Colby only found out the truth after he went to go check on his little sister.
Okay.
And she told him what actually happened. So he thought that, you know, this was essentially his dad for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
He raised him and he's distressed that his dad died and no one else seems to be upset.
It's very distressing. I feel
and then
so bad for Charles.
Yeah.
Did he die?
Yeah, he's dead. Dead. Yes. I said autopsy, Dylan.
Yeah. I was still holding on.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, Charles died.
Okay.
He did not make it. So Lori is like, okay, I told Colby, obviously not the truth, but I told him. So now I have to tell Charles's sons. So she texts them.
Oh.
Yes.
Text them?
Texts them. And says, hey, I have it written down. I'm going to read it exactly like she wrote it. Exactly like she wrote it.
I hope she used emojis.
She honestly, it would have been better if she did. Hi, boys. I have some very sad news. Your father passed away yesterday. I'm making arrangements and I'll keep you informed on what's going on. I'm still not sure how to handle things, but just know that I love you and so did your dad. Yeah.
That was a great read.
Thank you. So that was it. That's all they got. Mm-hmm. And then Lori didn't respond to them for hours. And so they're obviously like, what the fuck? You're not too busy to like not tell us how our dad died. Like what is happening? She didn't say that he was shot. She didn't say anything, just that they were waiting on reports from the medical examiner. Mm-hmm. And that was it. Then Lori tells JJ's school that Charles committed suicide. So that's 3 different stories right there.
Oh.
None of them are consistent. 4 days after Charles dies, Lori tries to file and collect Charles's $1 million life insurance policy. But she was told that she was no longer the beneficiary.
That's merciless. Yeah, who was?
I think her kid, his kids.
JJ?
No, I don't think it was JJ. I think it was like his older kids.
Gotcha.
But I'm not sure entirely.
Yeah.
So soon after Charles's death, on August 30th, Lori moved herself and the kids to no one really knows where. Mm-hmm. She just said like, hey, we've got to go. Colby remembers saying goodbye to Tylee in the most heartbreaking way. She was so upset, so distraught, and they up and left so fast, Colby wasn't even sure if Tylee even knew where they were going. And Tylee's like older. She's not as little as JJ. Like she's 16, 17 years old. Like she's a, anyway, okay. So during this time, after they left, Colby was really busy because his wife was pregnant and she was having a very difficult pregnancy. She was sick all the time. He couldn't call much, but he texted every time that he could to keep in touch with Tylee and the family. And after some time, he noticed that Tylee wasn't sounding like herself. You know how you can like tell somebody's tone through text message? Like people have like a way of messaging.
Right.
And it wasn't Tylee's. She was sounding off. And so Colby would try to bring this up with his mom, but she would shut down. Like, she's just busy with her friends at her new school, trying to adapt. Finally, he called Tylee out through text for not sounding like herself. And as soon as he called her out, Lori cut off Tylee's phone, and Colby never received another message from her again.
Okay.
So at this time, Colby and his wife are worried. Remember how I said that Charles like sent them a bunch of emails and phone calls with stuff?
Yes.
Whenever like they were going through their divorce, and
yeah.
Lori said like, don't talk to him. They never actually read those emails from Charles because they thought it was just like stupid relationship drama that, you know, like I don't want to be part of that. It's don't bring me into your shit. But now they're getting worried. They're like, you know what? Maybe we should like go back and take a second look and see what was in those.
Yeah.
And boy, oh boy, did they have some discoveries in them. So in one of these emails, he found a message where Lori called Tylee a dark spirit. And Charles was asking for help because he was afraid for his kid.
Yeah.
And there was a document labeled family history. And it was a list of all their family members. And they were labeled either dark or light spirits with a number next to them. So again, this is all based off of Chad's belief system for those who are good and bad. If you are like a 6 on the dark scale, that's like the worst you can get. If you're a 6 on the light scale, that's the best you can get.
Interesting.
If you are so far on the dark scale, you are a zombie, which is what I imagine what she considered Charles to be, like kind of a hollowed out shell with a demon inside. And the only way to free your spirit is to kill the body. Chad claimed there were 20,000 zombies, with the goal being to eradicate them. Every family member that didn't absolutely adore Lori and listen to her in some capacity was labeled dark or a zombie.
Before we continue, on the light and dark scale, where do you fall?
Where do I fall?
Yes, from 1 to 6 light or 1 to 6 dark.
I would say I'm a healthy 2L.
2L?
Yeah, I don't want to be too high up on that list.
Gotcha.
I think 2 is a healthy number.
I'm a 7 dark. I'm a friggin' Frankenstein.
You are
so dark.
In the ground.
Yeah, I'm a mummy.
Yeah, that's not good, Dylan.
Vampire. Definitely not a zombie, though.
Dylan, why do you bring this up whenever you're in my abode? Like, why do you not tell me things?
There are a few things. I'm not going to eat your cats. I know I said that, but I'm not going to.
You better not.
Okay, please continue.
So on October 9th, 2019, Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife, reported that she was shot at in her driveway by a masked man with a supposed paintball gun. She didn't get a good look at him, but she did post on Facebook warning the neighborhood about it, how weird this was. She ran into the house, screamed for Chad, and they did file a police report, but she was safe. 10 days later, Tammy was found dead in her home, apparently from natural causes. Chad claimed that she had gone to bed with a terrible cough and died in her sleep. In private, he had told his friends in his close circle that he didn't think his plan would work, quote, until the spouses were dead. But this wasn't public knowledge, just to his close friends. Chad received nearly $500,000 in his wife's life insurance policy.
Okay.
And there were messages that we found later from Chad to Lori saying that he was trying to, quote, hasten his wife's departure.
Yeah. I love how people always say you can't put a price on a human life, and then life insurance companies come
they
along
do.
and do that exact thing.
Exactly. Like, you're only worth $500,000. Charles, he's worth $1,000,000. Charles is a guy. A man's man, if you will.
I will.
So we're almost done. We're almost towards the end. Things are going downhill very fast. It's now November. We were in October, and JJ's grandmother has not been in contact with JJ or Lori for months. They left in August, remember? End of August, September.
Right.
So she's concerned for her grandson, and she calls the police to do a welfare check on them. So she actually was able to find their address. So Lori was not as smart as she thought. she was still using Charles's Amazon account. And JJ's grandmother found a purchase of a ring from Amazon that was purchased, and it had an address to Rexburg, Idaho. Do you remember when we heard Rexburg, Idaho before?
Rexburg, Idaho.
That was where Chad said that the headquarters would be for the New Jerusalem.
Which is just like, the New Jerusalem's in Idaho.
Idaho.
No
Absolutely.
offense to any Idaho listeners.
No, it's like, it's like...
Seems a little underwhelming.
It's like the whole basis of Mormonism where they're like, this man came to Utah. Like, so random.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after finding this address, the police go, and Alex is the one who answers the door. And at first, he tells them JJ's with his grandmother. And the police are like, that's really funny, but we don't think so because she's the one who called this welfare check. And so after some digging, they find Lori. And Lori's like, oh, she's with my friend in Arizona. Like, they're just hanging out. This wasn't true. And the family friend refused to lie for them. And the next day, the FBI got a search warrant to look for JJ, and they found the apartments empty.
Okay.
Everyone was gone. And in the process for looking for JJ, they also realized that Tylee was also missing. So from December 2019 to January 2020, law enforcement agencies intensified their investigations into the disappearances of the two children, as well as now Tammy's death, which was Chad's first wife, and Lori's very sudden departure from Idaho. Evidence was collected. Tammy's body was even exhumed for an autopsy, which Charles initially refused. Did I say Charles? I am. I said Charles. I meant Chad. I'm so sorry. I keep saying Charles and Chad.
It's
I
very
feel so
similar.
bad. It is. It's like the fucking...
The feel of the name is like polar opposites.
Yes, but like I'm saying...
Charles is a 6 light. Chad is a 6 dark.
Exactly. It's really hard. It's, they're so far on the spectrum, they almost like wrap around again.
Yeah, and become the same.
Exactly.
Like yin yang.
Exactly. So Chad's home was searched by investigators. Chad and Lori were refusing to cooperate with the investigation thus far. And the last known sightings of them, Tylee was last seen on September 8th at Yellowstone National Park with her brother, JJ, Lori, and her uncle, Alex. On September 23rd, JJ was seen in like a video doorbell playing with a friend. And the next day, Lori told the school that she was withdrawing JJ from classes to be homeschooled. So 2 weeks after the death of Chad's first wife, Tammy, we're going back a little bit, back to October. Unbeknownst to either of the families, Chad and Lori were married in Kauai, Hawaii on November 5th. Like 10 days after Tammy's death. And during this time, they falsely told people that Tylee had died in 2017 and that they didn't have any like children who were minors. And it's really disturbing because photographs began coming out as they're searching for these children of their wedding pictures. And wouldn't you know, Lori is wearing that ring that she bought on Amazon before Tammy's death. So she had bought this ring before Tammy died. She is now wearing it 10 days after Tammy's death in Hawaii. Her kids are nowhere to be found. Yes, that's where we're at. They also discovered a storage locker in Idaho that contained all of JJ and Tylee's things, bikes, clothing, toys, everything.
Oh.
Not good. On February 20th, 2020, Lori was arrested in Hawaii, where she was living with Chad all this time, not cooperating. After months of searching, June 6th now.
Of this year?
2020.
2020.
That same year.
Okay.
So February, she was arrested June now, which is almost a full year from when they were last seen in August.
Okay.
Chad Daybell fled the scene where police were searching his home. He was arrested, but not after human remains were found on his property. And the following day, the remains were confirmed to be those of JJ and Tylee.
Jesus.
So the remains were found in a shallow grave in what was thought to be a pet cemetery. And so that's what he called it. And the bodies were found in very different conditions and in very different places. So the first body was found underneath a tree And it was very carefully and like deliberately placed with large rocks at the site. Below the rocks were wooden planks. Everything was very careful. And out of all the burials the FBI agent said that he excavated, he said this one was the most precise. Someone's taken the most effort to bury these remains. And this was JJ's body. It was inside multiple garbage bags, which were held together by duct tape. Autopsy photos showed that he was wearing red pajamas and covered in a blue children's blanket. There was a plastic bag wrapped around his head that was covered and sealed with duct tape. And the FBI agent pointed out scratches on JJ's neck and on his wrists and ankles that was probably suggests that he was trying to get out of the bag and he died from asphyxiation. And the last image that we actually have of JJ from Lori's phone, he's wearing these red pajamas.
What does the image look like? Where is it shot?
On a couch.
On a couch.
Like he's playing. Like it's a video.
He didn't even know that it was coming.
It's a video of him playing and he's just wearing his pajamas ready for bed. It's awful. Again, why it's different in like the distinction and the importance of how these bodies were buried. JJ was buried very carefully, and we think that he was most likely killed not because he was a dark spirit. He was probably a light spirit to them, but it's really heartbreaking. With JJ's autism, he had a habit of saying things on repeat. If he heard it once, he'd just keep saying it over and over. So they probably felt he was a liability and killed him for that. And then in contrast, Tylee's remains were found in a completely separate location. They were charred, they were burned, dismembered, and they were not fully intact. They couldn't find all of her. Her cause of death was homicide by unspecified means because there's no way to actually tell because so much of her was missing. And she was considered to be more of a dark spirit. There is a very incriminating text message that Chad sent to his late wife, Tammy, around the same time where the kids went missing. And Chad claims to have shot a raccoon and buried it in the pet cemetery, and which was the same place that JJ was found. And he claims to have burned a couple tree limbs, which was where Tylee was found. It was determined that Tammy Daybell had been asphyxiated in her autopsy. Both Chad and Lori were indicted on charges of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Lori was first found to be incompetent to stand trial because obviously this woman is bananas, but she was later went to therapy. And I didn't know that they did. I thought like if you were incompetent to stand trial, that was it. But apparently that's not the case. So she went to get help and they deemed her then competent after she received help.
She was probably put on a course of medication.
I hope so. Honestly, I do. On May 12th of this year,
yes,
Lori was found guilty of all criminal charges. And then, like I had mentioned, it was just July 31st where she was sentenced to consecutive life sentences for the murders. From arrest through the trial, Lori has shown zero remorse. It's actually incredible. It's so chilling to watch because like people were asking her where her kids are and she was saying like, no comment, like nothing happened. She insists that people just don't get what happened and that they will see eventually. And she's sorry that they don't have the knowledge that she does.
Well, if she believes that the end times are just around the corner, then she's not going to be held responsible for any of her actions.
That's true. She says that Tylee and JJ have communicated with her that they are very happy in the afterlife after their death. They're very happy to be in heaven. A psychiatrist said that Lori's last mental health evaluation showed that she suffered from hyper-religiosity and unspecified personality disorder with histrionic and narcissistic features. And that is it. That's the story.
That was a roller coaster.
Yeah, I apologize. That was a lot of information.
Oh, I mean, how do you feel about this case now that it's come to a conclusion for the most part?
It still blows my mind. And so that's the thing. Chad and Lori are being tried separately now. So Chad just got his trial date. He won't be tried until, I think, April 14th, 2024. So he still has a whole other year to wait for his trial. I mean, it's like watching the footage of the kids and like hearing from like their families. It is so heartbreaking. I'll
be interested to see how this one turns out.
I mean, we've got like, one in...
There's so many warning signs along the way.
Yeah.
And people who should have done things but didn't. Who neglected their responsibilities. And now several children are dead.
Yeah. As
well as an innocent man.
And a woman. Tammy was killed.
And Tammy.
She didn't do anything.
I forgot about Tammy. I'm sorry, Tammy.
How could you? Yeah. Not good. Not good at all.
Let's put a dot on that.
Sorry to put a damper on things.
Well, I'm going to uplift everyone with the story of the Ratman of Southend.
Ratman.
The Ratman. That's the only way you can really say it. The Rat.
Of course, you have to.
I'm not going to say it like that the whole time because it hurts my throat. But
You don't do that.
So first off, my source here was a great YouTube channel called Shredded Hand. They have a video on this if you want to check it out. It's very interesting. But my story today is more modern folklore than recent true crime.
Okay.
The story is set in Southend-on-Sea on the southeast coast of England. There's a tunnel on the Queensway underpass that's gained a reputation over the years.
Okay.
It is because of the Ratman of Southend. Ratman. I love that name, and I'm going to go into why he's called the Ratman in a second here. Naturally, we have the Mothman, the Bunny Man, Bigfoot, and now the Ratman.
Love it.
I guess there's just something that interests us about combining animals with people.
Yeah.
Something unsettling when you add a tunnel. That is a great urban legend.
Yes.
So apparently, this is the story. There was a homeless man who lived in the area, and on a winter night, he entered the tunnel I mentioned with his blanket, the Queensway underpass, and he settled in, falling asleep, until a group of drunken teenagers passed through. And you can imagine what happened next. It's pretty much what you might expect.
Yeah.
The gang of drunken teenagers beat the old man.
Yeah.
And stole his blanket.
What the fuck?
And the old man froze to death in the tunnel because he was too battered and unable to get help. The rats were attracted to the smell of death and came to eat his body.
Holy fuck.
And it's said to this day, the old man's ghost haunts the tunnel. Some say that you can visit the tunnel at night and see an old man walking through the underpass ahead of you. Then he'll turn to show you his skull eaten away by rats.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Some people say that he'll put a curse on you unless you offer him money. And other people say that the figure doesn't resemble a man at all, but a human-rat hybrid.
Okay.
Like an old man body with a rat face.
Ooh.
I know. Spooky, huh? Now, there's another version of the story as well. In that version, the mayor of the town is known for adultery. He was known for getting around town, and one day, one woman fell pregnant, and instead of a baby, the woman gave birth to a deformed creature that looked like a rat.
What the fuck?
Which sounds a lot like my own birth story.
Yeah.
It had a long face, gnarled claws, and a segmented tail.
Oh, it's just like your birth story.
Yeah. Like the story of King Minos and the Minotaur, the mayor attempted to hide the child by building secret tunnels.
Okay.
Under the ground near his house. The boy was kept in the tunnels, but it said that he escaped, and now he lives in the Queensway underpass, apparently.
Okay.
Now, if you look at pictures of the Queensway underpass, it's actually pretty short.
Okay.
You can see like the other end, it's maybe about like 50 to 100 feet away.
That's kind of what I imagined, to be honest. Like this little stone tunnel that looks real creepy.
Yeah, and it looks like there's tiling.
Yeah.
And that particular area of England is pretty dangerous. I guess it's a meme that so many stabbings happen in England.
Oh
that
my
you're probably going to get stabbed if you try to actually visit that location.
What the fuck?
But it said that people go down there and scream Ratman and wait for a reply, and other people go down at night to try to find the Ratman of Southend.
And they get stabbed and eaten.
And stabbed and eaten by
and
rats.
they turn into the Ratman. It just, the cycle continues.
That is Ratmen. Yeah.
Ratmen.
Which sounds like a great name for a band as well. So now we have Dynamo, Spiritual Dynamo.
Yes.
And the Ratmen.
What would I feel like Ratman is like, I was going to say grunge.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a grunge.
Mm-hmm. Definitely noise music. Mm-hmm. So, in addition to the Ratman of Southend, there are stories around the world about a Ratman. All of these stories taking different forms to suit the area and local culture. There's the Ratman in Ohio. The story revolves around a mysterious creature or individual who is rumored to live in the sewers or abandoned buildings in Ohio.
Hey, that's me.
It's me. He's said to have a rat-like appearance with sharp claws and teeth. Some versions depict him as a mad scientist experimenting on humans.
Okay.
While others portray him as a vengeful outcast.
That's me. That one is me. Not the mad scientist.
It's like a BuzzFeed quiz. Which Ratman are you?
Yeah, we should get on that.
Ratman of Southend, of Ohio, or the giant rat of Sumatra.
Okay.
So this story is an urban legend mentioned in Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes story, The Adventure of the Sussex Vampire.
Okay.
While it doesn't directly involve a rat man necessarily, it's worth noting because it deals with a giant rat from Sumatra that allegedly attacked a ship. Now, if you have to imagine how sizable a rat would be to attack a ship.
Yeah. Like a pirate ship?
A pirate rat, maybe. But it was big enough to be able to damage a floating vessel in the water.
Damn.
Which means it must have been...
Still, regardless of the size of the ship, it's still a very large rat. It doesn't matter, really.
Yeah, no, it's enormous. So I guess a rat was swimming. I'm not really sure. This story has inspired various adaptations and reinterpretations in popular culture. And there's the Ratman of Paris as well.
Okay.
Now, you know about the Paris catacombs.
Yeah.
All those... like miles and miles of tunnels that just stretch out under Paris.
Yeah.
For miles with bones and other debris.
Yeah.
And there are legends about a mysterious rat man haunting the underground catacombs of Paris.
Okay.
And this figure is said to be a recluse who has embraced a rat-like lifestyle and appearance, which relatable. Dwelling amidst the bones and darkness. So those are just a few interpretations of the rat man.
That's like the tagline of Ratman.
What is
Dwelling in the midst of bones and darkness.
Ooh, that's like the first lyric.
That is like you should start a poem with that line.
Yeah.
That would be a great one to start.
And people would be like, hey, reach out to me. Like,
Dylan, are you okay?
Yeah, I can't help but notice that your poetry is taking kind of a weird turn recently. It's all rat themed. So I'm curious to get your take on the Rat Man, specifically why these kinds of stories seem to be so prevalent. Obviously, there's a shared thrill of stepping into a world weirder than our own, and going off of that, the allure of the unknown and mystique of things we don't know. So why do you think that stories like the Rat Man tend to be popular? Yeah,
so I think for that very reason, at least I know in my experience, the thrill of the unknown is terrifying, but I still somehow am drawn to it. Mm-hmm. I think another reason is I think it's just like, I think it could be like a fun way to explain things that are normal in a fun way. Like if you see a large rat or an odd looking person, it's like, instead of being like, that's an odd looking person, why can't it be a rat man? You know,
a large rat or a small man?
Exactly. Who's to say, really? But how are we to see it all? We can't. We can't. So we have to. We shan't. So like there have to be things that we just haven't seen.
Yeah, for sure.
The Rat Man.
There are so many rocks that haven't been turned over.
There are so many fish in the sea that have not been discovered. That freaks me out.
One of them could be a ratfish.
It could be a ratfish. We don't know.
I'm sure that maybe the giant rat of Sumatra was a ratfish.
You know what? We cracked one of the cases, Dylan.
Wow.
We got it.
Mystery solved.
Mystery solved. We figured it out. You know, okay, and the Paris one in the catacombs, maybe, stay with me here.
Okay.
You know how rats carry the plague?
Yes.
What if the plague mutated and then therefore mutated the DNA of the rat?
Mutated the rat DNA?
Yes.
And turned it into a little man?
Yes.
How big is this man? Because I imagine him as a little guy.
Oh, I imagined him as like a 4 foot guy. Is that a little guy?
He's little.
Oh, I thought you meant like little.
No, just like a little guy going around.
Okay, yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, like a 4.5 foot man.
Yeah.
I would say. And he has like a suit on that's like tattered.
He has a little carnation in his lapel.
Like at one point he was put together. At one point he had a life, and then it all went downhill.
He lived in Paris. Maybe he owned a bakery.
He had a lover in Paris. You know.
Yeah. Another rat woman, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe a mouse maid. Maiden.
A mouse maiden.
And
I love that.
And something happened, and she broke his heart.
The plague happened.
They were chased out of France.
Exactly.
And
maybe she died. Maybe she was killed.
she was killed by an angry mob of people who were afraid of the plague.
Yes.
And then he was so distraught by that, it was sort of a Phantom of the Opera thing.
Yeah. I'm liking this.
And he went underground. And to this day, he's just so distraught, bereft of his one true rat love.
Yeah.
That he refuses to go outside. But maybe if somebody brave of heart and pure of intention were to go down into the catacombs and just, I don't know, talk to him. Befriend him. Then maybe the rat man could be a rat friend.
I love that. I'm going to cry, Dylan.
I'm already crying.
That's beautiful.
Sort of to go even deeper into the subject, why do so many urban legends seem to combine animals with humans?
Now that I like. I think that because in some type of way, humans are animals. I mean, like, we have, like, there is a primal nature in every one of us.
Yeah.
And who better to tap into that than an actual animal?
Absolutely.
So I feel like blending the two is just kind of like this primal, like going back to our core, you know, like a werewolf man. Like, he can't help it. Guy's trying to have friends. He can't help that he gets angry sometimes.
And, we consider ourselves so separate from the animal world that stories like this can sort of change our own perception of what is and what isn't true about our very nature.
Like, if you told me there was a cat man, I'd be like, cat man.
I'm the man cheetah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what? We could be friends.
Yeah, he'd have little cat ears on top of his damn head.
I'd be freaking cuted.
But here's the question.
Okay.
And this might freak you out a little bit.
Okay.
Does the cat man with cat ears on top of his head have human ears on the side of his head?
No. No, he doesn't.
Does he have 4 ears?
No.
So he's just missing ears? It's just smooth?
Yeah, it's smooth like
I feel like that's kind of disturbing.
No, I feel like having ears upon ears would be just more disturbing.
I'm sure people have been born without ears. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But...
Are you body shaming?
This is a very specific kind of body shaming. But I imagine it would be very strange to have a cat man with cat ears and no ears on the side of their head.
I can picture it. I'm picturing it right now in my brain.
What does it look like to you? Just smooth?
It looks like Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats, the musical.
Do they have sideburns?
Yes, they have sideburns, but no ears.
So it's just like it's
little... just fur. It's actually just constant fur.
Okay, it's just fur. So they don't even have hair. They just have fur.
Yeah, it's fur. It's fur all over. They got a little cat nose.
And they're good at dancing.
They are great at dancing, Dylan.
Great. The one thing I love about Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats the Musical is just the names.
Fucking Rum Tum Tugger.
That's exactly what I was thinking. The Rum Tum Tugger, baby.
That was my awakening. Like, I was in love with Rum Tum Tugger.
What were the other ones?
Grisabella. She was the one who sang Memory.
Yeah.
The depressing one.
That's my favorite.
That's all I know.
That musical. But we have so many different urban legends that combine animals with humans. We have the Ratman, the Mothman, the Minotaur, and even the werewolf. So my own takeaways, maybe it's because so many of us feel a connection in nature, and these myths warp and sort of bastardize that, literally in the case of the mayor.
Yes.
Or maybe because we have a tendency to project human qualities onto animals, and so the natural conclusion is to project animal qualities onto humans.
I like that reasoning. I like that one a lot. We like to anamorphize things a lot.
Yeah.
So I think that's a natural escalation.
But, one of the sad things is, looking back on these stories, we're just one cold night in a tunnel away from being dehumanized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it.
And I think that's where I'm going to end my particular story.
Thank you for ending yours on a depressing note.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure.
If you were ever alone in a tunnel one fateful night, do you think you would turn into the Ratman? What would you turn into?
I feel like after 12 o'clock at night, when I'm just scrounging around for a little bit of cheddar cheese, for a little bit of like
little snicky snack,
3 cheese Mexican blend,
sticky snack patty way,
I go wah, 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 and I put my hands up and I run downstairs. I skitter.
Haley's.
And I turn into Ratman for sure. Yeah, Haley's terrified.
Yeah, she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, she locks the door until I'm done eating my cheese. And then I ask to be let back in.
Scratching on the door.
I'm the Ratman.
No!
Oh, man.
I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Dylan, thank you so much again for coming on and talking with me and spending time being ridiculous with me. It's amazing.
It was a delight. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, anytime. If you are interested in more of us, you can find us on ME Crisis Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Okay, also about this Twitter thing, I don't know if I'm gonna keep posting on Twitter because I fucking like
now it's X.
I am eternally going to be bitter because the only reason I chose the username to be ME Crisis Pod was because that was the requirement for Twitter.
Yeah.
And now that is no more. And I'm sad and salty. So I might change it. I don't know. I don't fucking know. But
yeah, I don't have a lot of faith in the way that Twitter is going.
Me neither. So I don't.
That's its own horror story.
That is, and that might not be happening for us anymore. Anyway, so try to follow along, guys, wherever we may end up. And you can email us if you want to at myexistentialcrisispodcast@gmail.com. And see you guys next time.
See you next time.